Renaud Egreteau is a fellow with the Wilson Center's Asia program. He's also a visiting fellow at the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies and a research associate with the Center for International Research. He joins us today to discuss election results from Myanmar, some call it Burma still. Welcome, Renaud. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, John.
You called the elections free but not fair. Can you explain?
Indeed, they were among the freest since the 1960 elections. As we have seen over the past 2 months, since the electoral campaign started, candidates were free to canvass, were free to organize their own meetings, to talk to the media. The media had a very crucial role in monitoring the elections. Aung San Suu Kyi herself also was not on house arrest compared to the previous general elections in 1990 and 2010. And there were also a lot of other good indications. The army so far has not intervened, there was no interference from the security forces, whether the armed forces or the police. And the results, which were a landslide victory of Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy, so far have not been contested and accepted by the military. So by far it was the freest polls in decades. They were not the fairest, though. It's something that many observers have noticed before, well before the elections. Hundreds of thousands of Burmese were disqualified right before the vote, especially the Muslim minority from northwestern Burma, the Rohingya community, as well as a few other communities of foreign origin, Chinese and Indians. Many Burmese also, especially in the northern part of the countries, have been displaced because of the civil war over the past 5 years. They were not able to vote. About 1 or 2% only also of the Burmese diaspora, the Burmese people living abroad, have been able to cast a vote. So not the fairest polls, but given the recent political histories of the country, they were the freest, and this is all good news.
Is there any way to know if election results would have been different if that large mass of voters had not been disqualified?
Not necessarily, because
I mean, it's not good form for democracy in general to have so many
exactly,
people.
but it would have.
But as far as the outcome itself,
it would not have changed this landslide victory of the National League for Democracy.
And now that there is this big victory, along with a victory of this size comes expectations.
Indeed.
Is this new ruling party ready for the expectations?
It's very difficult to say. First, the electoral process is not complete. There will be election next year to form a new government. These current polls, the November 8 polls, were elections to form a new parliament, but not a government yet. So there will be also expectations in that sense, forming a new government, forming new local government as well. It's not the union government that has to be formed, but also 14 decentralized governments that will be created earlier next year. But overall, the expectations, of course, are very high, even probably too high for the Burmese voters. There has so many things to change in the country in terms of justice, in terms of inter-ethnic relations, in terms of social interactions, in terms of the economy as well, that a legislature of 5 years won't probably not be enough to...
In addition to those policy expectations or the types of changes, what about expectations of a smooth transition of power when those next moves come a year from now?
So far, there are quite good indications. The army, which is really the institutions at the core of the political space and also the political process, has frequently declared that it wanted to recognize the results well before the elections, and since the results were announced, and since we obviously saw that the NLD had won. So the military is prepared to let the process go smoothly. What is a bit more surprising is that the main loser of these elections, so the USDP, so the Union Solidarity and Development Party, which used to be the political proxy of the military, has also accepted the defeat. So there is a chance that the transition in the next few months will go rather smoothly, but the question will remain is what to do what can be done later on.
Speaking of later on, looking long term, 92 political parties and only 12 currently, with 99.9% of the vote counted, have seats in the new parliament. What does that say about the future of democracy in Myanmar?
One of the key issues facing the country is the ethnic question. So the relation of the ethnic Burma majority with mosaic of ethnic and religious minority. This struggle for ethnic rights has predated the struggle for democracy in the country. That means that bringing democracy will not solve this ethnic issue, ethnic questions right away. The new parliament will have only 10 parties representing ethnic political forces, with very few, a very small legislative power. The aspiration of the ethnic people to go forward in their in their struggle for political and political rights will have to be held beyond the parliament with the civil society.
Because they just don't have enough numbers.
Because they don't have enough power within the parliamentary walls, and probably also within the government, the next government.
Final quick thought about the role of the military. It's an interesting hybrid of democracy and military rule, in that the military reserves a certain amount of seats in the parliament, will have veto power for any constitutional changes. How long can this type of setup endure before there's a move toward full democracy?
It can take several years, legislatures, before the military really accept that it should not be involved in politics. It's even not part of its ethos, or even not part of its DNA. The military has been politicized since the 1960s. It's a state institution that considered its role as politics. This is an institution that wants to be politically engaged for the sake of a nation. It poses itself as the guardian or moderator or arbitrator of the nation, and cannot really go beyond this role or mindset without a thorough resocialization of its officers and the way the military officers think. It will take a long time before the military accept to trust the civilians, accept to really only focus on security or military-related affairs, and not only on political, economic, or social affairs.
Well, Renaud, thank you very much for joining us. Look forward to staying in touch on this as things progress.
Thank you, John.